everybody, this is Joseph Vogely of Stoegelefilms. I'm the co-writer, the director, and the creator of the new slasher sensation Specimen 6, which will be out on digital and DVD July. We're very, very close to accomplishing finishing the film and getting it out to the people, which I'm very excited for. Here we are on another episode of What Podcast Is This, Mariana?
Welcome to the No Country for Joe and Mariana podcast. And today we're joined by the beautiful Siobhan and Amy, and we're going to talk about witches.
Yes, that's precisely correct. And we have these two very wonderful people on our podcast. Why? Because of our topic, and how do they relate to that topic?
Well, I've known Tashina for quite a few years, and I know that she's a practicing. Are you currently practicing, or are you
practicing Wiccan? Yes,
practicing Wiccan. And every time I've gone over to her house, it always smells so wonderful, and she smells wonderful. And I asked her why, and she told me it was all of these herbs and the coconut oil and all this stuff. And then she showed me all her relics, and it was just so fascinating that I really wanted to explore the topic more. And Amy, you've known Joe for a while.
So long.
Yeah.
So long.
What's your history with paganism and Wiccan?
I don't identify as a Wiccan. I identify just as a pagan, an eclectic pagan solo practitioner. And I have been connected to nature and the magic and energy of nature and divination since I was maybe like 11 or 12. And I bought the Buckland's Compendium for the first time, and my parents got completely freaked out and took it away from me. My mom said she burned it. I don't believe her. But I've considered myself a dormant pagan, a self-hating pagan. Historically, I have a lot of interesting, varied history with how I feel about my own personal path. But in the last year, I've really been spending a lot of time reconnecting to nature and to my own energetic connection to nature.
And how do you do that? Is there some kind of ritual that you like to do, or is there just do you just like to go out in nature and just hang out?
I look for ritual. It varies. So ritual is in every day. When I take a walk outside, and I pick up a leaf that speaks to me because it has some kind of energetic pull towards me, that's a moment that I'm engaging in ritual. If I'm looking to actually achieve or create or manifest something, and I do some sigil work that I carve into a candle or put into sand or put under a plant pot, or I have one on my forehead that I did in foundation before this thing, that's a bit of ritual. So ritual can be in any aspect of the day-to-day, as all the way to creating an elaborate multi-step, multi-day coven-related ritual. Just depends on what you want to accomplish and where you want to focus your energies.
That's really interesting. Tashina, what about you? What would you say is what was your introduction to this culture?
So mine's a little funny. I was actually raised Mormon, and I got to a point where I completely rejected the church. I guess kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't identify with any of this. This doesn't make sense to me. And so I kind of went on this very personal and varied study of religion. And it started off with me, of course, because, I started off in some form of, Christianity, that I started looking through all the Christian religions. I'm like, this does not make sense to me. And eventually found myself within actually paganism, and then Wicca as a subset. And I identified very much with the teachings, beliefs, and also the power behind it. So it actually is something that drew me to it. Also, I am I'm one of those people, this is actually why you and I are friends, is that I look into the history of everything. I want to see how it became what it is. And that was also a big factor of what drew me to it. So I find myself at this place where it made me feel very loved within myself, which was a new sensation for me because I grew up in a situation, I grew up in a religion that just by its very nature did not care for me as a person. So it was kind of a journey to self-love, which sounds super hokey, but whatever.
No, I totally relate to that. And I think that's always been a huge draw for me as well, is that like emphasis on internal power and internal manifestation and the divine feminine, and this like true love of every person's power and specialty, and like that emphasis on the goddess and the goddess within all of us. Like I relate to that concept as well. When you're raised in a society that does not value feminine power, that actually actively works to subvert and push down feminine power, finding power in nature, in yourself, and being told that like you are part of the divine is incredibly powerful.
I agree. I very, very, very much agree.
So it sounds like it's very much about being connected, not just with nature and with others in your community, but also with yourself, like inwardly. That's
yes,
really cool.
That's 100% true. It's very much about recognizing not just the power externally, but the power internally and what you bring as yourself as a value.
Oh, that's really cool. So what are like some of the things that you do throughout the year to kind of embrace that power?
I like to moonbathe. I can't do it all the time because I live in a place where my neighbor can definitely look over the over the wall and be like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" Which is getting sky clad and going out in the full moon or new moon or whatever moon you're trying for your purposes. Again, this is very purpose based. Yeah. There is again value in everything. A waxing moon is to bring things to you, whereas a waning moon is to send things away. And so just like in a situation, let's say I've had a bad breakup, I might moonbathe in a waning moon and give myself a ritual to cleanse myself of the negative energy that would go along with that breakup. Or, if we're getting away from, that sort of thing, I might, go out and perform a ceremony, which could be anything from lighting a candle to, again, like she said, taking a walk and finding something that calls to your power. Everything is within itself some sort of ritual. And so it is, again, it's very much finding the power for what you're looking for. And nothing is, the other thing that I really liked is that there's only a few things that are very much set in stone. The rest of it is kind of, it's again, the power.
You have like a freedom to worship in the way that you want.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about these symbols. Amy, maybe you can shed some light for us too. So you guys have brought up candles. I know that there's herbs, so like sage to cleanse, incense is used, and then there's on the more tactile side would be like crystals and rune stones, things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
You're touching on a whole bunch of different aspects. Rune stones, for instance, are a specific tool of divination that can be used. There are all kinds of different rune stones, but probably the ones you're most thinking of are like a Nordic style rune that are usually cast, and a question is asked, and then or you are looking for a query or clarification on something that's going on. So it's a form of divination. Tarot cards are another divination tool that are used often. Scrying is another one, which can be with a mirror or with water, and it's casting and then asking, looking into the surface and asking it to be revealed to you. So divination takes a lot of different forms. When we're looking at herb lore, so here's one of the things is that there are lots of different kinds of witches, and some people really identify with one aspect of their power really manifests in one area. Like a green witch might be someone who really works best with herbs and plants and out in the wild and in the garden and with their hands in the dirt. One of my best friends identifies as a green witch. She truly feels a call from plants. She can talk to plants. She can make them grow in the most lustrous and beautiful ways, and she uses them in her practice. So the different herbs all have different properties, and they can be brought into spell work to enhance the work that you're doing using those properties. Rosemary is a really universal herb that is used in a whole bunch of different spell work. We made intention setting salt bowls as a small coven right before the new year this year. And so we mixed crushed rosemary in and rosemary oil in with the salt that we were using. Salt is a purifier. Salt is a protection agent. You can cast a circle of salt to keep evil out, put it at your doorstep. You can add the rosemary to symbolize strength and home and family. You can plant rosemary next to your house as a way of keeping evil out and protecting the inhabitants within. So there's a lot you can do with different herbs. I have a book about about the different properties of different plants and different herbs. And so that's a whole nother podcast.
If you're gonna bring up that much stuff in one thing, how long is this podcast?
How long you got?
1 or like 10? I can't.
But we don't know, so we
totally.
that's why we have you guys on here. So then let me ask you this then, Amy. Do you have a specific like avenue that you like to explore more? And
I've been learning a lot about and spending a lot of my energy on divination, particularly with tarot. The last year or so, I've been doing daily tarot pulls and studies. And I have in my grimoire, which is my magic book. Some people call them the Book of Shadows. Some people don't share theirs. I'm really proud of mine, and I use it like an art journal, and I feel safe sharing aspects of it publicly, so I'm okay doing that. But I do... let's see. So I do my daily tarot pull. I've had a hard time during the quarantine, I'll be honest. We can talk about that later, but it looks just kind of like that, where I'm pasting like a mini Rider-Waite tarot with a description of what I read from it, what the traditional description might say, and then kind of my thoughts and meditations on how that turned out throughout the day. Historically, and I think naturally, I'm an energy witch. Like I manipulate energy. I can use it for healing. I can read auras and see auras. Joe can attest to the excellent neck and back rubs that I give, and head rubs. Like I use energy in a way that is nourishing, and in my spell work. Also, this is a good symbol to show off. So I wore this one specifically. This is the goddess, the 3 moons, so the waxing, waning, and whole moon, which symbolize the maiden, mother, and crone, the 3 phases of the moon, the 3 phases of femininity. That's a big symbol in most of like divine feminine paganism.
What about you, Tashina?
What was the question?
Do you have a specific? Do you more general, or do you like to categorize yourself as one way or another? How do you like to practice?
Okay. Oh, asking me how I like to practice. I find myself that I am actually I'm very much attuned to spirits and the energy that is given off by that sort of thing. I've been seeing ghosts since I was a kid. That's been fun, especially when you grow up in a Christian household and they don't buy it. So I will say that I've been seeing, I see ghosts. I see ghosts the way that people see people, and it's been a very interesting thing, because there are some that want to be helped, but there are some that don't. And you have to find a nice balance. Within that, I'm also very much about divination. So normally mine is tarot and rune casting as well. My rune stones, I am actually one of the weird ones I am not comfortable sharing my grimoire with anyone. it's just one of those things where it's a very personal thing for me. It'd just kind of be like, hanging my underwear out on the lawn. Actually, I'd be more comfortable hanging my underwear out on the lawn than sharing
Well, you're moon bathing, so.
Well, see, I don't. My
different.
body is divine. That is one thing that, again, something that drew me to this is that my body is divine. And no matter what people's the current thought on what it is, my body is divine. It came from the divine. It is divine. And so, and it is a tool for me to use while I'm here. And as you would sharpen a knife to use it, you need to, continue to care for your tool. And one of the ways that I do it is with the moon bathing. So, but yeah, that's one of the things. That's kind of how I practice. I practice very much with that. Funny enough, I think this is the first house I've ever lived in that doesn't seem to have a spirit attached to it. So I'm like, oh, this is different. It's a big difference for me because up until this point, I have been almost every single place that I've lived has had some sort of spirit, and they have a tendency to become a bit more active around me. So whereas somebody might not experience anything, before me living there, there's small experiences that could be, pushed off as like, oh yeah, the wind was blowing really hard, that's why there was that knock, or things like that. It would be something that's like more active for me because I've actually been to places that are haunted. They're like, oh yeah, these are haunted, and I'm like, oh okay, and then I'll show up and I'll be like, yep, sure is. Hi there, buddy. Nope. And again, this is one of those things where it's very much with the energy that sort of spirit and person would give off. So it's an interesting thing. This is also part of the reason why, again, I got drawn to this, is because it's something that's very accepting of the fact that something I can do. Another thing that's really been super fun through my life, being tiny bit facetious there, is that I dream the future in snippets. I have to say, being able to dream the future versus, divining it from cards and runes is so irritating because it never gives you the only way I can think to describe dreaming the future is walking down a dark hallway with a flashlight and your flashlight just kind of turns on every once in a while. Like for a horror trope, to get back to this fact that this is a horror podcast, this would be like walking down the hallway with the big scary thing at the end of the hallway, but your flashlight's turning on and off. And so like every once in a while you can see it and then it's gone. So, but that's been one of those things that's like it's shaped the type of work that I do. A long time ago when I was a very misinformed young Wiccan, which, I used to do curse work, which was terrible for my karma, I will say. I finally have grown out of my karmic rut. It's taken years. So that's the type of things that I do now. I do a lot of ritual, and it comes down to things that are even just as simple as, taking the time to be mindful of my body and be mindful of the energy of the day. So
cool.
Good question.
Well,
Thank you.
you both you both said that you have the grimoires or the book of shadows. Is that what it's called? And you talked a little bit about Raymond Buckland. Are there any other like texts or books that are kind of universal to pagans?
Well,
I would say
really like more
is individual. That's something that you create. It's kind of a record of your journey as a witch or as your spell work, and it's almost like a journal. At least in my practice, I do it in an art journal format, and it's sharing it has been a big part of me coming out of the broom closet, as they say. And so because I grew up with a lot of shame around my pagan identity, so being able to share it is part of my work and part of putting that energy out there. And like you were saying, that is just not for everybody because it is so personal. So it's definitely a matter of like what speaks to you and what works for you. So as far as like reading material, I mean, I grew up with Buckland and Scott Cunningham were kind of the main books that everybody recommended. But like, keep in mind, in I think 1998, when I was starting to learn about witchcraft and Wicca in particular, the metaphysical section was about this big at the Barnes and Noble, next to the gay and lesbian section, which was about this big, next to the women's studies section, which was about that big, and then the rest was like chicken soup for the soul. And that was like what you had to work with. One of the coolest things about kind of like rediscovering my, finding time to rediscover my connection to my pagan self in my 30s and in this time is that the internet is such a like vast and amazing place to connect with other witches and other practitioners of different types of magic. And I have found just some great community, like in DIY witch Facebook groups and like herbalism Facebook groups and mushroom collecting Facebook groups and just things, you know, people, you can, all of those are ways to kind of connect with others. And there's no like one set of books that it's like, you got to have this book. And there's no one podcast you just absolutely got to listen to other than No Country for Joe and Mariana, obviously. Plug. But otherwise it's like whatever you're interested in, find the works that help you delve into that more deeply. My partner has this amazing 1001 herbal home remedies book that they got from their grandmother or something like that, and they use that a lot, and we both will refer to that frequently. Or I go to my metaphysical shop, pick up stones that feel good to me, and then I go home and look up what they are and what their properties are, and then look at ways to incorporate them into my craft. And so it just, if I want to, otherwise I just leave them in a pile and kind of feel around for what feels right today. It just, you know, there's nothing specific. Also, did you ever read Teen Witch? That was one that I got when I was like 14. That was on the list of recommended readers.
I read all of 2 chapters of that one and was like, doesn't call to me. But yeah, no, like she was saying, there is, because the craft is, how you practice the craft is very personal to you. There is no, it's not like Christianity where they throw the Bible at you and this is how you have to do it. Because like she said, she works with energy, but I work with energy too, but we work with energy in completely different ways.
Different ways.
100% different ways. We're both working with divination and we're working with it in different ways. So it is a very deeply personal experience to work how you work your craft. Whether it's, you know, heavy in, you know, like I have a friend of mine, lovely lady, and she works heavy in spells, and all of her stuff is very, very heavy into intention. And the intention, a lot of the intention work that she uses is runic and deals with candles and stones. She almost never uses herbs in her practice, which I always thought was kind of interesting because it's something that I do when I actually am working something for myself. I usually use herbs, and you know, but that's, again, it's something that for her, that is what works, and that is what is comfortable for her. That is what works very well for her. And again, so because this is, again, so personal, this is, you know, it is a journey to find your goddess and how you work. And finding your energy and your blessedness in the world as a whole. So there's no set reading material. There's no, there's a bunch of things that people can suggest for your personal growth, as well as, you know, something, again, it can be something that's, you read that a bunch of people have read and they swear by it, but it's something that doesn't call to you, and it doesn't call to how you work with your craft. So again, this is one of those things where I'm like, man, this is something that like I feel so strongly about because it is very personal to you.
I actually recommend a lot to folks. My son right now is just exploring his pagan self for the first time, and I love it. He's so like secret about it too, which is just the sweetest thing. But my recommendation is to actually not read a lot of books about Wicca, about paganism, about specific sects of paganism, because pagan is kind of is looked at as like an umbrella term, and then there are specific paths within paganism that some fall. Like some folks consider themselves pagan Satanists, some folks are Wiccan, some folks are, there are lots of other ones. But I recommend early on not reading those, because I think that when I did a lot of reading when I was young, I got really caught up in what I thought my craft was supposed to look like, and making sure that I was using the exact right crystal and the exact right candle, and spending a bunch of money on perfectly tailored metaphysical things that were bought at the local shops. And, you know, it just really isn't about that. It isn't about having the specific knife and the specific broom and the specific cauldron. It's really more about like what tools call to you in any moment for any given intention. I did a on-the-fly spell just when the virus was starting to take hold in the States, and we were just sort of hearing about it. I was really overwhelmed and afraid, and I was walking down by the bay, and I grabbed a stick and I created a sigil in the sand, and I called to my patron goddess, and I called to all of the energy that I held inside to like put a bubble over this space and over these people, and to help minimize the impact and like lend my energy to the greater energy. And you know, that is not something I could read in a book. If I had looked at a book, I probably would have seen that it was the incorrect moon phase to do that particular type of spell, or that I didn't have the right herbs with me in my pocket, or that the stick I was using was of the wrong, like not the correct configuration. But in reality, that spell was powerful because it came from me without prompting in that moment around something that I wanted to lend my energy and protection to.
Well, girls, you know, this has been so informative, and it sounds like there's just so much to unpack that I think we would really like to have you guys back for maybe another episode to continue the discussion. But before we go, Joe, did you have any questions? You've been awfully quiet.
Well, you know, we have such wonderful people here, such very beautiful, intelligent women. I didn't want to interrupt the thread as it was going. And I didn't really have much to add myself as far as, well, other than just sitting here looking pretty. So
his eyes went like wide when Tashina said moon babe.
You told him about it.
Evident, pictorial. But no, so I do have a question. So, and I'm very interested in how like magic can affect everything. And Amy, you were saying protecting other people. Once in a while on this show, we like to kind of recommend food to people to watch with the movies and everything like that. And I was wondering if there's anything, because you talk about like herbs and such, right? Some rosemary. Well, I like rosemary bread and stuff like that. Is there anything to maybe the idea of magic food?
Oh, Joe, yes. Kitchen witchery is its own thing. Please talk about this.
100%. 120. Magic baking is its own subcategory, of which 100%. I have like even spirits in and of themselves. So like not just food, but actual like, you know, drinks have their own power.
This is calling to me.
A favorite of Mariana's, mead, has a strong pull, and it actually has, if properly blessed, can be a magic food in of itself. And when I say properly blessed, I mean within its own intention. Again, there's no right way or wrong way to do this, but there is definitely magic food. There is, you know, like there's foods that can be had. Oh, in example, if you practice Beltane and decide that you want eggs to help with fertility. So
stay away from eggs.
But in things like that, so in things like that, there is definitely a food element to magic, and it can be anything from baking with intention. So I like making pies. I'm a big fan of pie, and I will bake with intention, and I will put specific herbs and spices into my food to help bring forth my intention. This is not something I'm super strong at, but it is something that I enjoy to do. So if you're looking for, certain things, there's actually recipes to be had in that way. And again, there's no right way, no wrong way to do it, but there are things that can help you with your intention going forward.
If you're a person that celebrates the Sabbats, which are basically the pagan holidays, they're times that mark the different times of the year, the seasons, the equinoxes. They're all based around harvest and food. Food is like our most primal, ancient drive. Like it was the clock in the early times, right? So like this is my wheel of the year. Let me see if you can see that at all. That I painted.
Oh.
And so
beautiful.
I see Yule there.
Yep, Yule is the dark time where we light the Yule log to remind us that it will be warm again, we promise, basically. So this year for Imbolc, which is like the very beginning of spring, it's also a time in my cultural practice as a Celtic and English witch that we celebrate Brigid, the goddess Brigid, who is a trine goddess in Celtic mythos. And we made rosemary oat bannock that time. We used rolled oats and oat flour. These are all like things that made it through the winter. So the oats are hearty, they're nourishing, they'll get you through those last days of winter and into spring. We used rosemary for protection. It's an evergreen plant. So rosemary is one of those things that also lasts through the winter. I used last harvested rosemary, so it came right at the end of summer too. Sugar, which makes life sweet. Egg for fertility. I also made a lavender rosemary syrup and cake with a mascarpone icing. It was so good, you guys. And
you're making me hungry.
That's it right there.
Oh, look at that. She has a picture.
Oh,
the bannock. And then we blended a special rose tea. And so like all of those things were, the lavender symbolizes the spring that's to come. The rose is the remembrance of summer. You use the last of the herbs and the last of the things that you had from winter. Each of the Sabbats has its own set of foods and herbals, because like herbal uses that symbolize the time and the harvest that you're participating in it. Ostara, which is around Easter time in the Christian mythos, we eat eggs for fertility and to remember the goddess Oyster. And we lavender's in a lot of them, but like lavender is a spring flavor. It's the first that's coming up. I mean, there's Litha just happened, which was the summer equinox, or the summer solstice. And so lots of folks made honey cakes. They use the summer honey or the end of the spring honey. They're celebrating the spring and getting ready for harvest at the end of summer. And so we're eating all of those like yummy summery foods, lots of honey at that one. And what else do we do at Litha? I honestly missed it. I was super depressed this year.
I was actually not in a great spot either. So I did a lot of personal worship.
That's it too, right? Like sometimes it's not like Christmas where your mom's going to get mad if you don't show up. That's the best.
I of course I did a little something to honor the goddess, and I made my day of honey, and I spent my time with my meditation in the sun and gave thanks to the day. But this has not been an easy quarantine for anybody, and so my mental health comes very, very much very highly. And this is another thing that I absolutely love about my practice, is that your mental health is a driving force, because it is the energy that you bring forth into a situation, any situation, including your spell casting. So, and your honoring of the day. So I tried, but it was just, I left out my offerings. I pulled my elements. I gave my offerings to the day, and gave thanks for the day. I greeted the sun, and then I was like, I am done for the day. I just need to practice. I need a nap. So normally it would be a bigger ceremony for me, but this was not the year for it.
Well, girls, this has been so fun, and we definitely want to get you back. We'll talk. Well, I really want you guys back to talk more about the. Amy, you said that you felt like you've had some pushback on your paganism, and I know Tashina has told me in the past that there's not the best view of witches and witchcraft out there. So I'd really like you guys to come back, and maybe we can do an episode just talking about that, and maybe we can date it back to the Salem witch trials.
We'll come back. We can talk all about misconceptions and history.
Absolutely.
And keeping women down, and
we can we'll make it super fun and super awkward for Joe, and we'll talk about the feminism behind the witchcraft.
For him.
He's not going to be upset about it.
He's getting so much better.
We just have him here to look pretty.
Just sit there and look pretty.
Well, Joe, do you have anything to add?
I don't think I do. I think this has been a really wonderful episode, and I really hope that this reaches out to people that need it. But one last thing, these are kind of trying times for people and everything like that. Would either one of you recommend, I don't know, anything magical to, in a way, kind of help people through these hard times? Because I know as the months wane by, things don't seem to get better. So is there anything that people can do, young people perhaps, that are exploring their own inner magic, to kind of help them get through these times as they were? Any practices, food to eat again, anything to make them feel better?
For me, a big thing is I like teas, and I also do I do detox baths, which they don't sound very magical, but they are really good, especially if you come to them with the intent of washing away the negativity. A little bit of Epsom salt, some lavender,
Mugwort.
Oh God, yes. And I would say, take the time again, come to this bath with the intent to cleanse yourself, to wash away these negativities. And I think that a lot of people are following the age-old medication of yield spirits. Maybe if you're underage, take a bath. If you're not, have a glass of wine.
That's great advice.
I would say to recognize the cyclical nature of everything. And a lot of the things that we're experiencing now are karmic retribution for things that we've done in the past. They will end and a new cycle will begin. Take a moment every day to do something kind for yourself, for the earth, for someone that you care about. Tea is also an amazing thing. Tea is a ritual, can be a ritual, even if it's just putting the bag in, adding your sugar and stirring 3 times while you think about something nice, something peaceful, all the way to blending your own teas and making something specific for an intention and purpose. My son has been riding his bike out and sitting in a meadow and journaling. And I just recommend anything that is kind and simple and takes you away for just a moment from everything that's moving so fast. There's so much information going so quickly, and centering yourself in a moment is super essential right now. And then taking that to do something kind for someone else.
I think
100%.
Great. Yeah. Well, Mariana, this has been an amazing episode. I think one of our finer ones. I think we're
Definitely our prettiest.
definitely.
Right?
Yeah, that is for sure. That's gonna
Which
be
is
our rating.
notoriously gorgeous.
So pretty.
Yeah, we definitely want you two back on here because I think there's so much more to explore. I know we have lots of other notes, but I think those are for a different time. So I want to thank both of you. You have been absolutely wonderful. So thank you again for joining us on this podcast. Mariana, could you please say something delightful in Italian and uplifting for our viewers?
Uplifting. Ugh. You're asking a cynic to say something uplifting?
Yeah.
If you're going to say enough something nice, say something gruel.
Okay, how about que sera, sera?
There we go.
What will be, will be.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us at No Country for Joe and Mariana. This is a wonderful episode. Please be kind to yourselves and do something kind for others. Goodbye and good luck.